Okay, we're ready. All right, so let's make a formal introduction for our listener. Good afternoon, David. My name is Claudia. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that David Arkenstone accepted our invitation to our show. David, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much, Claudio. It's beautiful to be here.
Wonderful, thank you. So, we have been living in a very weird period for the last 2 years with the pandemic. I wonder how you're holding out, how the COVID affected your sanity, your family life, your inability to play outside, whatever it is.
Well, yeah, the inability to perform has been not enjoyable, because I love doing that, because it's a way to take the music from the recorded position to people, where I feel that's the full communication. I think recording is sort of like, that's the first step sometimes. It depends on the kind of music, but I like to be able to take that music out and play it. And then when the band plays it, then it evolves a little bit and becomes something more. But usually, like pandemic wise, I work a lot on my own, in solitude, sort of. And so when you couldn't go anywhere, I just worked more, I guess, and made more music, and tried to learn some new instruments. I have a new synthesizer set up I'm trying to learn, and I have some other new things. And so I took that as one side was a blessing, that I had all this time all of a sudden to do more, since I'm not have to think about playing shows. Okay, what else can I do? So that's what I did.
Yeah. For me, as I mentioned before, the best thing that happened to me, and I feel very bad saying this because in the United States, over 1 million people die and millions of people all over the world, but the best thing that happened to me was the pandemic, because it forced me to, look my life, put a different perspective, and then thought about what was important to me. And I was going so fast in my life. I'm an engineer, working without, and that the COVID allowed me to slow down, to smell the roses, so to speak, and put this project together. So it was
I think that was true for a lot of people. You had to stop for a minute and look around you, and you have to see what's important, how you want to spend your time. I think there's a lot of people who don't want to go back to their office jobs if they can work 2 or 3 days a week and the rest at home. I think that has been a good thing, I think, for people.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. Were you born like in a musical family, and how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano lesson or guitar lesson at home?
Yes, exactly right. Pardon me. My parents were both musicians. My father was a guitar player and a kind of singer. My mom was an excellent singer and an excellent piano player. So my brother and I had lessons from very early ages. I have some old pictures of us sitting at a piano playing a duet or something. Pretty cute. But I always liked to practice. I didn't mind it like some children. It's like, oh man. But sometimes I'd see the kids outside playing baseball or something. I think, oh man, I'd like to be doing that. But I did practice. And then when I got into high school, and even before that, when the Beatles came out and some other bands, I decided I wanted to do that full time. I remember an early memory when I was 4 or 5 years old, and I first heard the Nutcracker by Tchaikovsky. I had a urge to find out how that music, what made that sound. So I think for a long time I was pursuing that, trying to make my own orchestra, sort of, out of different instruments. And then when I got to high school, I was in quite a few different kind of bands, jazz band, and then a couple rock bands. And we played original music. We started writing some music, not the greatest, but you have to start somewhere. And then college, I took more jazz classes and some performance classes. And then I got to the point where I just wanted to do nothing but make my own music.
And then after kind of going high school, you at the time you knew that you wanted to be a musician, or your parents were telling you, well, college is the only way, forget about music, you're not going to make any money, or
Well, we had a couple conversations like that where they said, you know, you sure, you know, because my dad was in bands and he knew what the path of a musician would be like. And I
yeah,
think they didn't discourage me, but they also said, oh, maybe you should do something to, you know, make sure you get by. And I just wasn't interested in that, but I did paint houses for a while. So that was my other job before I could make music a living.
that's right. What kind of bands were you listening when you were, I don't know, 16,
You
17?
know, when I was that age, we were listening to like Deep Purple and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Yes, and some of the groups from Italy like PFM, progressive rock bands, where they tried to mix classical idioms with rock music.
Yeah,
So we and I liked Styx a lot. We had very good harmony in our band, so we did that kind of music. But I liked, you know, one thing I got from my parents was a love of all kinds of music, because when we were growing up, they had every kind of music in the record collection you can imagine, from Herb Alpert to, like I said, Tchaikovsky, to jazz, to Broadway musicals, everything. And it was all, back then, it seemed like you could just listen to everything and it was okay. You didn't have to specialize. It was just all music to me. So I found that very nurturing, I think.
absolutely. The same happened to me. Growing up, I was born in Chile, and I
Hmm.
came to the United States to study after high school, David. And my dad had, man, an obscene amount of music, jazz and tango. So
Tango. Yeah, we
yeah,
didn't have tango.
yeah, from Argentina, and you know, my dad told me that I began listening music, I don't know, when I was a baby, I suppose. And but at 14, when I was 14, I kind of discovered rock and roll and the Genesis, the Pink Floyd, the Led Zeppelin,
Mm-hmm.
the Depeche Mode, you know, jazz stuff, so Jean-Luc Ponty, and the rest is history. You know, it's you that. But I have a good ear, I suppose. As I mentioned before, I never play an instrument. I don't know how to read music, but I have a good ear. And I've been listening to music for, I don't know, 50 years, 4 hours a day or something like that. So I have
Yeah, and you know
beautiful
good
thing, man.
music.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and you know.
music has given me, as a consumer of your product, has given me a lot of satisfaction in my life. I don't know what it does to me, but it's like it's magic, you know, putting,
Yeah.
you know, coming home from work on Friday or whatever, and putting a headphone, drinking a cup of beer, and the music takes me places.
Yes,
Soundtrack, you know, electronic music, jazz, rock. It's a beautiful thing, man. Oh,
that's
it does something
especially
to me,
what.
man.
Yeah, that's a special thing. You know, that's what, especially my music. I like to go somewhere. You know, I like to have little adventures that the listener can go with me on, I think.
No, absolutely, man. Man, you were, you know, in rock band, a progressive band, and when, you know, when you were early in life, 17, 18 to 20,
Hmm.
and then you went from that to new age. How you went up new age after doing progressive rock, jazz club, classic rock? You mentioned Deep Purple, you know,
Yeah.
Styx, and so the work. How new age, if we can call it that.
Well, yeah, it was, you know, I was in bands and we kept losing our lead singer, and then pretty soon I had two babies at home, and I was looking at my life and I thought, I don't want to do the band thing for a while. I'm just going to try doing something on my own. So I got an 8-track tape machine and started making these little things that, because I've always wanted to be my own orchestra, you know, and so I could lay down a synthesizer track or a guitar track or a bass track or a drum track and then make a whole arrangement out of something. And that was super satisfying. And then I came up with some stuff that I thought was pretty good. I mean, I thought this is pretty good. And I went to Tower Records and looked at labels on the back of the New Age section, which was about you know, 2 albums wide. That was it.
That's it. Right, yeah.
There was like Will Ackerman and George Winston and Kitaro and very few other people.
Yeah.
I think Stephen Halpern maybe. And I got some addresses from those records, and I just sent cassette demos out to people. And you know, it was sort of new age, but it was more just like instrumental music, you know, because I think they were, Narada is the one I signed with finally, which was exciting because I'd been pursuing a record contract for so long with my rock band, and then nothing ever happened. So it got a little frustrating. And like I said, I had 2 children, and it was like, oh, what am I doing? You know, I wanted to be a successful musician since, you know, I was a teenager. So this was a beautiful opportunity that I had, but they had on their label, they had acoustic guitarists and acoustic pianists. That's all they had. I came along and I brought these synthesizers. I played some flute. I brought these sort of fuller arrangements, you know, and so they had to figure out how that fit into their world. And then an artist named Peter Buffett came along also, and he had similar taste to mine, where he liked to use a lot of different sample instruments and things like that. And so they created this label called Narada Mystique. And then I did my first album, and I was amazed and very lucky that people liked it. So that's what I continued to do.
And there was, it was, so you couldn't get a contract on the record label as a rock musician, but with the kind of new age kind of stuff, was hard to get the new contract as a new age. I don't know. At the time was, you know, Winston Hill and William Ackerman, they were the main level at the time, right?
Yes. And then Kitaro, I liked Kitaro because he did the kind of music I wanted to make in that genre. It wasn't acoustic guitar, it wasn't just piano, which definitely has its place. It's beautiful, but it was not enough for me. I wanted to make more different sounds, you know, and he kind of did that. His early albums were, I heard one album and it sounded like Pink Floyd, like without the lyrics. And I remember thinking, wow, this person has a record deal, you know, maybe that's something for me. So I pursued that, and then and luckily you know, people liked what I did, so I stayed in that direction. I kept that direction going.
Good for you, man. And then not only your music was primarily instrumental, but I read somewhere that in some occasion you have some vocalization as well, right? And
somewhat
vocalization.
Yeah, on my, I don't know which, might have been my 5th record, 6th maybe, Quest of the Dream Warrior. I did some vocals, yeah, because I'm not like a lead singer, but I like to sing, and I added some of that, some lyrical songs to my new age palette.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And then from, you know, the instrumental type of music to, you know, then the soundtracks and then video games, commercial, man, you went to a different path. You ever thought that you will, you know, you began very humble, you know, if I can advance 40 years after Grammys and so on and so forth, you were painting houses and nobody give you a record deal. And then look at where you are right now, man.
I know, you know, I just feel so blessed that people, I mean, when I go into the studio and try to make some music, I just try to make the best music I can, and the kind of music that I would like to listen to. Yeah. So that's the only thing I can do. You can't do whatever's on the radio that day and make it, you know, it's already there. You have to do something, try to be different, and then luckily, you know, you talk about video games or even some television. Like on my 2nd album, I had a song kind of a desert ride song. And a producer at NBC heard it. And this is right around the time we were doing an Olympic record. So he had me do the music for the Kentucky Derby. So, which is still on today. So it's like, you just never know where it's going to take you. And I've gotten lots of great comments from fans and people about that music and all my other music. And what I like about it is it's just another part of me. You know, it's still me doing that music. You know, you have different parameters. You know, if you're doing a 60-second piece for NBC, you have to think in a little bit of a different way instead of like, oh, I'm going to let this 6-minute song just play out. You can't do that. But it's all pretty fun, I gotta say. And then the video games, some people heard my music and thought it would be right for their game. So that was fun too. I'm still doing that.
Yeah. So you, inside of you, what's the motivation to, I mean, people call you to the video game or soundtracks or commercial, or you aim into, you know, man, I don't like to do that kind of stuff. I want to go into a direction, or pretty much you're able to adjust to whatever the demand is and then put your effort there.
Well, I think if you want to keep working, you know, because let's put it this way, in the 90s and such, I supported myself by my records. I would make a record, it would go out into the stores, and then I would get money for that eventually. So then the internet came along and changed everything, really everything in the world for many, many people. You know, like I think there's people that now think that music is just free. And it kind of is. If you just want to listen to Spotify and listen to ads, you can listen to anything all the time for free. So that has taken a toll on the music industry. So sometimes when I get like a NBC calls, first of all, I can use some instruments that I don't normally use, which is always enjoyable. Like maybe they want a big brass sound or something, which I don't usually put on my records or recordings. I can't call them records anymore. But so that's nice because I can choose some different instruments that maybe I don't use all the time. And it's very unusual for me to turn down an offer because I usually find something interesting about it. About everything.
And then since you own all right, and you know, as a publisher, you know, you get paid, I suppose, in television every time that a commercial is, you know, is heard, or a TV show, I mean, or whatever that is, right? So
it's a few pennies every time they play something, but it adds up. You know, it just adds up over the year, and then you look at your check and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I can keep being a musician.
You'll never get another day job. What's your take on Spotify and Bandcamp and stuff like that?
It's very hard. You know, Bandcamp for me is nice because I have a few records on Bandcamp that people can buy directly from me.
Yeah.
Yes, Bandcamp takes a percentage, of course, but it's really kind of a direct line to the consumer since they cannot go into a record store anymore. I mean, most people can't. There's a store in Hollywood, you know, there's occasional record store that sometimes sells vinyl now, but people have a hard time finding physical copies of CDs. So I get a lot of orders from Bandcamp, and some people just buy a digital download too, which to me isn't satisfying. I like to have something I can hold and read and look at. And Spotify, I remember when Spotify was coming to the United States, there was everybody was against it. Most record companies, and it was a big deal. I don't know, that's probably 10 years ago, I don't even remember. But on the one hand, it's unfortunate because of what I mentioned before, which is anybody can listen to anything for nothing. Nobody gets paid. I mean, what you get paid from Spotify is so small on a per listen basis, you know, like 0.0000.
Yeah, you need to have like a million hits
Yes.
a month to get a
Yes.
$200 paycheck or something.
Yeah, exactly that. So, but there's a flip side to that, which the internet has provided, which is a lot of people can find you who never would have been able to find you.
Yeah.
And so when you can reach so many people, I think you have good music, then you can get your share of your fan base and people who will follow you and enjoy what you do. So that part's good because you would never be able to reach so many people.
That's right. Yeah. For me, Spotify, I don't want to do the advertising thing. So I pay $10 a month or whatever that is. And
yes,
I'm able to listen to millions of artists all over the world that otherwise I wouldn't be able to hear them, right? So it's the great thing that happened to me on the other side is Spotify, because it's a great tool to discover new music. You know, I'm always discovering new music. I'm always buying new music. I'm always trying different things, you know, and it's like a disease, I suppose. I mean, I like 100 bands, but I'm always looking for another 100 and so forth, you know. So it's for me, it's great.
No, you know? I pay for Spotify too for that same reason. I like to hear what else is out there, and sometimes I just like to listen to a whole recording of mine just to hear it as an experience like that. And yes, I can do that on my own computer at home because I have all the tracks naturally. But I like to sort of be a consumer and listen to that sometimes. And what Spotify then does is sends you somewhere else to something you might like. And I'm always interested in that.
Right. So machine learning algorithms tell you, well, if you like David Arkenstone, you must like,
that's right,
you know, this or that and that. And you say, yeah, why not? And try, oh man, this stuff great. And from there you go to another, and that's great. And it's a beautiful thing, man. It's like a social, it's like a web, right? Like a social network. You can go from one place to another. And,
for somebody who enjoys music like you or me, it's like a gold mine. I mean, there's so much to find.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I noticed that you have working on other genres as well, like a heavy metal soundtrack for it's called Emperor, the Battle for Dune. That's very different from the stuff that you did before. It's because it's a different, it's the same person but different way of different genre, I suppose.
Yeah, and that was nothing like the records I had been doing. That company, I mean, that's what they wanted because it was music for the Harkonnen, which are kind of the evil guys in the Dune stories.
Yeah.
And so you just can't do like a piano soundtrack for that or something. You have to, and plus they knew I could play guitar. So that was really a lot of fun. I get a lot of questions about that soundtrack still because nobody can find it. It's probably on Spotify, but I have a lot of people that would like to hear the original tracks, you know, the high quality, and I don't think I even have them. And that company's gone, which happens a lot in video games, of course.
Yeah. So if a video game is not successful, they will, I suppose they don't sell X number of copies, they go out of business.
Yeah, or they sell so many copies that somebody else buys them, and then they get buried into some other company, you know, and you lose the creative people who were there.
Yeah,
I think that happens too.
Yeah,
but that was a lot of fun to do that. You know, I like playing guitar in all kinds of ways. You know, I can't do tango, but I like it. I enjoy it.
Looking back, you ever thought when you were, you know, at the time painting houses, you know, trying with 2 babies at home, that you will end up, you know, with a 5-time Grammy nominee? And my God, man, that's impressive. 1 is impressive.
Well,
and 5.
Yeah.
Never mind winning. I mean,
yeah, of course. The first one was a shock.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, what, you know, because I've always my whole life, I watched, pardon me, the Grammys, you know, and then they created this category that I could be eligible for, and then I got a Grammy nomination, and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, it's a satisfaction, you know, when people that also make music nominate you. It's a beautiful thing. And
Yeah.
you know, when I was painting houses, I was always thinking I was going to be a rock musician, but this has actually turned out better because I can do so many things and I have so much freedom, and I don't have to be in a radio format. I can just do kind of what I want, and I'm
Yeah.
fortunate. I'm just fortunate that people go along for that ride and continue. I mean, last year I got nominated again. That was the 5th time. I was like, can't believe it. I'm still in the game, you know.
Of course, the first one probably to have, you know, was more important and perhaps giving more satisfaction than the other 4.
Yeah, because it was the first time. But also, I think, well, how come nobody nominated me for this other record, which I thought was way better?
The way better, according to you, was better, but according to everybody else.
Me, that's right.
That's right.
According to me, I think a couple of my records should have had Grammy nominations, but you know, you never know.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to be part of, though, just to go to the ceremony and see all these people that are making music. It's really, really special.
Where that is in Los Angeles or as well?
It has been in Los Angeles. Last year it was in Las Vegas because of the pandemic. They postponed it, and then they lost their dates at the Staples Center or wherever they're going to have it, where they usually have it. So they moved it to Las Vegas, which was actually pretty fun, but it wasn't quite organized yet there. So I don't know what they're going to do this year.
For me, my Grammy nomination is interviewing people like yourself. I mean, as I mentioned before, it gives me a lot of satisfaction to talk to people. I'm going to be doing like a documentary on electronic music. I'm going to Germany in a couple of months, and you know, being in somebody's houses, talking to somebody that you had the record, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago, and eventually drinking a beer with you or with another musician, and be in the living room, you know, that's it's my prize, you know. It's
well, let me know if you get to California.
I was there, you know. I wish you know, we have the conversation. I was there a couple 3 weeks ago, and
yeah, I'm sorry I missed you.
Yeah, and it's a bit, you know, as I say, with the radio, you know, I started as a way to protect myself from COVID, being at home, listening to your music, and now 150 interviews later, and I'm trying to get a hold of everybody in the universe. And
I bet they all want to talk to you. I think they all want to talk to you.
Well,
I think they all want to talk to you.
At the beginning, I was very kind of reluctant because I'm kind of an introvert, believe it or not. Due to my accent, and I said, man, probably the folks are not going to, you know, understand what I'm saying or whatever, you know. And here I am, 2 years later, still around.
Great.
Man.
Yeah, excellent. Congratulations.
No problem, man. Tell me about your creative process. Like, how the music come to you? I mean, you wake up in the morning with an idea. You go for a walk in Hawaii. Man, I hear some birds, some piano. You write it down, or how the stuff comes to you?
A lot of times I will, if I'm not at home, I will just sing something into a message to myself on the phone. Right. Like if I come up with a little motif or something. But usually it's just like you said, I wake up in the morning. First of all, it's just exciting to think about. Like if I'm not on a project, I think, okay, what am I going to discover today? What do I want to try? What do I want to experiment with? If I'm on a project, then I wake up with part of the music I need to do for that. And then I go in the studio and make it more developed. And that's the way it usually happens. I mean, I've never been at a loss for inspiration, I'm happy to say. So I'm lucky in that way. I can always make something.
Yeah. And when you don't have like a deadline or a particular project, you are doing, you know, good stuff. You put them away, and then somebody hired to do X, Y, Z. you try to bring the stuff from your library into back, or kind of reuse stuff you in a way did it before, and until somebody
Sometimes,
hire you to do a project or whatever.
sometimes, but usually it doesn't fit anything else. You know, it was made for a certain thing, and it that's what it fits.
Yeah.
So
Is it difficult to have like a to have like a deadline in front of you that you need to release something, I don't know, 2 Friday from now, whatever, and then
yes, deadlines. There's two ways to look at it. One is it motivates you. You have to do what you have to do. And the other part is it's a little scary because it seems like it's just around the corner. But it's usually okay. Usually it's not a big crunch. So I make my own deadlines mostly.
yeah. When somebody hire you to do a game, whatever, you tell them, okay, you know, I will get back to you in 3 weeks or whatever. Don't give me I don't know how long would it take. But
Well, the way it is now, like the game I'm doing for Blizzard, called World of Warcraft, and their deadline is the date of the recording session with the orchestra, which is very important. Like you can't miss that because you have to be done with the music a week or two ahead of time so it can go to the orchestrator to make the notes for the musicians to play. So that's a deadline that is not, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to take another couple days. You can't do that. You just have to get the work done. And it's usually been okay. It hasn't been, I don't know, hasn't been a problem yet. Some nights before the deadline, I stay up very late to finish things.
yeah.
Like anybody, like any job.
Sure. Have you ever been in a position that you create something and they didn't like it and you need to go back to?
Yeah. Usually, especially if it's a game or a TV, they have a specific idea of what they want. Yes, they hired you to do it, but usually you get a good handle on it after they give you a description or show you some artwork. But then you might get some notes like, oh, we like this part, but this part, you know. But that's what happens when you work with a team as opposed to just working on your own music, right? Or you're the boss. It's very common to get notes.
Yeah, they may say, you know, I like this part or like that. You work at that. As opposed to have everything done according to you, send it to them, and then they get back. Hey, we don't like this stuff, whatever.
Yeah, it's not that. It never gets that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's usually just we'd like, you know, because they know their game. They know what it's supposed to look like and sound like, and maybe they sent you a few pieces of art, but they really know what they want, so they can help steer you. It's really steering you instead of like, oh, this isn't any good. You don't get that. I don't.
Yeah. I heard that the world of the world of video games is very, very competitive. There are many people trying to get into that genre, if you will, right? So
yes.
A lot of people that do electronic music or soundscape, or they're good with keyboard, they think that they can, you know, create tubular bells and a couple of knives or something, I don't know, or whatever that is, right? So,
you know, it's getting better because a lot of major colleges have video game music courses, departments, or they have film music like USC. It's big. There are a lot of film composers come out of there, but that film music and video game music is very competitive. I mean, for every job, there's hundreds of people that are qualified and want that job. So it is. I feel fortunate that they keep calling me.
Well, after the 5 Grammy awards, you know.
Yeah,
when I
I don't
should
know if that, I don't know if that matters to
help you?
them.
No, 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 no.
Not in that case. They're happy for me, but I think it's more like, just do the right music for us.
Well, you are as good as your last composition, I suppose, right? So, but they keep on calling you back, so it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I must have done okay last time because they called me again.
Yeah, you basically have been described as a soundtrack for the imagination. Feel free to elaborate on that. That's beautiful, beautiful 3 words.
Somebody said that. I didn't make that up. Like
Yeah.
somebody said it, and I thought it was really close to what I would say to people, because that's what happens to me when I'm creating it. My imagination, I have sounds I can use, every kind of sound you can imagine at my disposal. Even if later I then use real musicians to replace what I originally wrote because I don't like the sample or something. But I think I like that title because it helps people think about just expanding. It's not necessarily a love song. It's not something else. It's more like a journey. So when you say soundtrack, I think that's good for people to hear. It's like I make my own soundtracks for imaginary movies or whatever. Yeah, I like that. Some people have written things that I don't like, and I think that's not me. Because I remember there was an old thing called, which was also very close. One of the bios, it said cinematic new age rock, but that's only a few songs that you could put that on. I like the soundtracks for the imagination because it's more open.
Yeah, absolutely right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have done over 60 albums, man. Where the motivation come from, man? You still keep on going, man.
Yeah. Well, the motivation is I feel like I have a lot of music that I want to say, a lot of things I want to say. And sometimes it's just a matter of a couple of those albums have been sort of commissions where like 20 years ago, I did some music with using the native flute, the Native American flute ended up being very popular. And so in that case, this company said, oh, we want something kind of like that. So I got to use that palette, again, I got to use those instruments. And then, so it goes from there to my latest, whatever I want to do in the latest, whatever mood I'm in, or if I want to do a record like the new Middle Earth record, I thought, okay, it's been 20 years. I think I have more to say on that. So I did that, but I'm never at a loss to, I'm just naturally motivated, I guess is what it comes down to.
Yeah, good for you, man. Yeah, it's hard. It has to stay motivation, whether you're famous or not. It's not that easy, man. It's either, like you say, either you have it or you don't. I suppose.
But I compare it to like an artist. Like, okay, let's say I was an artist, a painter. I wake up in the morning and I'm looking at this canvas that's 3 feet by 3 feet, and you have to visualize something being on that canvas before it gets there. I think, at least I do, and so that's the way I start with the music. One kind of piano sound or a rhythm, or I'll play a guitar riff or vocals. I have a lot of vocal samples, and I'll try to mix some, anything to get me going. And pretty soon that canvas is full of a bunch of things, and then you can take away things or add things, and then pretty soon you have a painting. So
yeah, I got you. And you end up creating your own. You have your own record label, right? The Neo Pacific, I believe it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with my ex-wife a couple of years ago, 20 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
And how did you end up? Did it work out okay? The record label.
It's been incredible. I mean, because there was a lot of music I wanted to do that on the major label I wasn't able to do because they only wanted one record per year, but I had a lot of other things to say, a lot of other music, and we had some genres we wanted to explore, so we did that also, and we did some Native American music, and we did some global kind of music, which I hadn't really done too much of on my other records. More rhythmic stuff, you know, more percussion, more sort of vocal chanting stuff, which is fun to experiment with on a keyboard, because you can do anything you want. Singer doesn't have to be there, so that's nice. But yeah, that has been very successful. Another fortunate thing, but it comes down to the music. You can market something as hard as you want, and if it doesn't go all the way through to people's hearts or ears or something that they resonate with, it's not gonna go. So luckily we keep doing that kind of thing.
Do you think that, looking back in your career, your life, that you didn't have a choice by that? I mean, you didn't pick music selected you?
I do feel like that, exactly. I talk to people like this about that all the time, I think, you know, because I'll meet people and they do what they do, and it's like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, and then when I say, oh, I'm a composer, I can't ever remember not wanting to be that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, I did want to be a rock star for a while, for sure. But I always wanted to create music, whether it was rock or new age or film soundtracks, whatever it is. I feel like, yes, chosen is a good word, but it's also a gift. I have a gift that takes a lot of nurturing.
Yeah.
You know, once you come up with a melody, that's great. You know, that's the gift, right? But then you have to make that into something. You have to make that into a whole piece. And that's where the craft comes in.
Yeah, put it right. You can, you know, have like a farm where the only thing you do is the output is wheat, but it doesn't become bread. Bread is a kind of taking the wheat and do it.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm a wheat farmer. Yes.
Right. But then from there you need to. Yeah. So many people, man, are unhappy with their life, or they're working in jobs that they don't like, or whatever.
Yes.
You and I are very fortunate. The connection that we
Yes.
music for me, I have a well-paying job. I can play. I you know, overly educated. I study a lot, and music has given me so much satisfaction. So very, if I die tonight, I hope not, but I'm very happy person. You know, music has given me
I
a
hope
lot of
not.
satisfaction. So.
Yeah. I can't imagine it. I just can't. It's an extension of me, and whatever makes me a unique human. I just can't imagine not having it.
No, and only the 2260 released it, but I think two of those, like a third, have reached the top 10 in the Billboard for New Age chart.
I actually think 20 have.
1/3, man. That's amazing, man.
Yeah, and I'm just amazed by the whole thing. I mean, it's a long way. You sit there in the morning or the afternoon or the evening, and you make your piece, which is your motivation. You know, you don't think about, oh, this is going to be on a chart, or this is going to get a Grammy nomination. You just don't think about that. You just want to make the best music you can. And when things like that happen, it's like, wow, I guess I'm doing I guess I chose the right path.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
man. I will bring
Something
your
like that.
attention to a couple of tracks that I listened to your stuff a couple of nights ago, and yesterday as well. A couple of tracks here random from Spotify, and if you can remember, that's fine. If not, remember the track "Call of the Sea" from the album called "Celtic Chill Out."
Yeah. Did you say Call of the Sea?
Yeah, "Call of the Sea." Yeah, I think it's cool. That's a beautiful
Yes.
piece.
You know, I think that has the most hits on Spotify's any
That's
of my
right.
music. And I'm amazed by that, because That's truly a song that was like a painting, because you had a rhythm, and then, but this is a commission album, and they wanted a Celtic, Celtic chill out. At first I had to figure out what that was, what that
Right,
meant.
right.
And then I just did my own thing after I sort of found a way through it. But that song, it has electronics in it, and it has sort of a melody, and then it has a drum loop in it. And I don't know why it's resonated with people like it has. I can't, if I knew that, I would just make more music like that.
Yeah.
But I can't explain it. But it was really like like a painting, really like a painting.
You took that as a regular track, like well track, right? And then on the other end, from consumer point of view, 1 million or 2 million people, too many hits you have had. People say, man, this is different. For you, it was
I
one of
know.
100, but for me, it was, man, this is
Yeah,
great.
but you think of 2 million people listening to your song, it's just overwhelming.
Absolutely.
It's like it just makes you want to. You talk about where motivation comes from. That's part of it. It's like, oh, people like what I do, I might as well keep doing it.
Yeah, I'm getting paid for it.
Yeah, well, if you can, yeah.
If you are getting a $200 paycheck from Spotify every 3 months or whatever.
It's a little bit here, a little bit there. It's all goes into the pot. It's fine.
Yeah. Another track that I really like was the Secret Wedding from Braveheart. That's another beautiful piece. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't usually do covers,
Yeah.
But I know that I talked to the guys we were making the record with, and they liked that song. I'm sure there was a reason, but that's a beautiful song anyway, the way James Horner did it. I had to figure out how to bring something else to it. You can't just do what he already did. So I changed some things and arranged some things the parts that I really liked, I changed them around a little bit. And that was fun. It was fun. I don't do that very often, but because arranging is way different than composing. Although composing, you start with you're composing the song and then you have to arrange it. So you're kind of like both people. But in that case, I didn't have to write the melody. It was already there. So I just had to arrange it, which was satisfying on its own.
I got you. Let's talk about your latest album that came out June 10th. It's the music inspired by Middle Earth Volume 2. Feel free to elaborate, if you don't mind, from your own words about why that album, why Volume 2, and I know you're a fan of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, that kind of stuff.
That's where it starts. I'm a fan of those books, and when I read them when I was a kid, 18-year-old kid-ish, maybe 17, I just got into them all the way. It was a world that I just loved to be in. I used to take the books to work with me and read them on the breaks and the lunch breaks and when I was in the middle of them the first time. Sorry, there's a trash truck out here.
Okay.
But they were so. I just loved the world that they were that they produced. Wrote the way he described things and all that. It just speaks to me musically. I hear music when I'm reading. So I did an album 20 years ago, the first music inspired by Middle Earth, and people liked it. And then I thought, okay, well, it's been 20 years. I think I'm a better composer. I have better sounds. I have other parts of the story that he wrote that I would like to illustrate. So that's how that came about. This seemed like a good time to do it.
Yeah.
It was somebody on Spotify has put the songs in chronological order according to the story. They made a playlist of both recordings,
Wow.
And I thought, wow, who takes the time to do that? But somebody did. It was very cool, and I listened to it. It was like, oh yeah, I did some good stuff back then, but I feel like the stuff I did this time is better and richer in a way. So I don't know. I could probably do up to volume 10 someday. But,
Really? You have that much
yeah,
material to?
I think it's inspirational enough to me that I could do that. Yeah, maybe volume 5. I don't know about 10.
But still, you
Because
know,
it's a big job to make an hour's worth of music that is sort of cohesive and tells its own story, because I've gotten feedback from people who don't even know the story. They know nothing about it, and they enjoyed the music. So
yeah, that's
all that effort.
at least for me, have been the same. Let me give an example. So I own, I don't know, like 300 or 400, soundtrack, right? And
Wow.
or more. I own a lot of the Italian stuff, all the John Williams one, and John Carpenter, or scary movie, horror movie. I have a wide, and
How about Ennio Morricone?
of course, yeah. Unfortunately, he passed away recently. Yeah, I own. Looking to my lab, I have a bunch of vinyl like that to listen to, and getting disorganized, and half of those, or 70% of those, I have never seen the movie. So what I'm saying is, you are kind of two independent things. You can see a movie and say, man, the music is very good because I like the story. It was scary. I like the director and I will go and buy the CD or the vinyl because I buy a lot of stuff. And at the same time, I look at the other way around. Movies that I have never seen, I discover the soundtrack in the category, horror or
Right.
experimental, whatever. And I put the stuff, never seen the film, and I really like the music. Are kind of independent things, I suppose, right? So you can like the music without seeing the film, and then once you see the film, you can go ahead and buy the vinyl. Sometimes 20% of the music is used in a film, right? So, maybe use 10 seconds of a track or right? So,
yeah, and I think people like soundtracks because they remind them of a movie. There's people like you who just had the soundtrack. I mean, I would buy a James Horner or John Williams soundtrack even, and that was always a great experience anyway. So I'm not surprised that this person or these couple people enjoyed the record for what it is.
that's
So
right.
Another thing I'm excited about is that I haven't had a vinyl since 1992, and I'm making vinyl for this record. It's in production right now, and it had to be a double album, which was more expensive. But I think that people who like vinyl, people who like Lord of the Rings, and people who like me, there'll be enough people that will enjoy this. And that's what made me decide to do it, because it was a big deal to make vinyl now.
Well, with the supply chain issue, and then number two, people, like you mentioned before, they are not buying as many CDs, as many vinyl. Many record store have, gone away.
Disappeared.
Difficult. Yes. You can, I don't know if on eBay you can always find stuff. Amazon you can always find stuff, but it's limited, right? So you need to gamble and say, man, how many value do I think I will end up selling, because I don't want to, end up with another 50 on my basement of my house, right? So you say, well, yeah, I don't know, 200 to make a number, like 200.
That's what I got.
How many will you be able to sell, right? So you need to money up front, do the production, to send you to 200 records. Then what do I do with the stuff? I paid $2,000 now. Right. How I can recover my investment?
I wish it had been $2,000. But it was. Yeah, I did 200 because I figured that was a good amount. Because when I start playing again, I think people at shows it'll be a very nice souvenir.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
right. Yeah.
I think, you know, that's the only one I've done since 1992. So that's significant.
Yeah, the merchandising
That's 30
aspect
years.
of musician, it can be lucrative. You know, you do a show,
Yeah.
well, perhaps you don't get paid that much money for the gig, but at the end, you can sell, I don't know, $2,000 worth of merchandise. We did CDs, a T-shirt, or taking a picture with the fan. And people like the stuff. You know, when I have like every show that I go, hey, you know, where is your merchandise? Can I buy? Can we take a picture to it for the radio? You sign someone. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, for me, you know,
Yes.
meeting someone that you enjoyed, you know, being at a concert with and having the stuff signed and a picture. I don't know. We live in that crazy world, you know, with pictures and phones and social media
and that's what I mentioned earlier. When we go out and play a concert, I meet people that have been fans for a long time, and then I meet people that have never heard of me. So it's kind of a great combination, because you're playing music that has been recorded, and that's just one place. But then when you play it for people in a live version, it gets another life.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
It gets more personal to people and me, because you're sitting there with the people 10 feet away from you, playing this song that you played all by yourself in your studio maybe, and it's more of a full communication, you know, kind of a togetherness. You know, we're exploring this music together, you as the listener, me as the performer. It goes beyond the recording. That's the part I like.
Do you get nervous playing live for an audience?
I do a little, because, you know, there's always electronics involved. If it was just a grand piano on stage and nothing else, no microphones or anything, it might be easier, although I'd be terrified about playing grand piano just by myself, all alone. But sometimes you do a sound check and then you come back and something's not working. And that's the nervous part. And that actually, I saw that happen recently. An artist that I really enjoy, Arnold's, he's from Iceland, and he was starting his very first song. And something was wrong with one of the synthesizer plugs or something, and it wasn't working. And he had to just stop. And, you know, that's terrifying. He wasn't terrified. I mean, it's just the way it goes. But then they fixed it, and it was like they just started over. And I did this one time where I was playing flute on a song. And at the time, this was years ago, and I had a sequencer that played some of the other music, and it had a wheel on it, and you use the wheel for tempo. And I set the flute down, and I was doing something else, and then the flute fell on the tempo, and the wheel turned, and all of a sudden the tempo was twice as fast as what we were supposed to play. So I just stopped it, and we just started it again. And people are very forgiving about stuff like that. It's like electronics stuff. Some people can't turn their TV on 2 days in a row now. So it's the nervousness comes from just wanting to do the best performance for people who have paid money.
Absolutely.
You know? So, you know, I used to, our keyboard player and a percussionist of mine used to, before we played, we had a shot of rum. I don't do that anymore, but that helped.
Twist the nerve.
Yeah, so that took the edge off, but I don't do that anymore. I don't need to do it. It was fun.
Whatever works, man. What
puts you in the mood?
You know, I'm a coffee and water type of guy. So.
Yeah, no, me too. Orange juice.
Orange juice. So, what do you think it take to survive in the music business? Because it's very difficult. Like you mentioned the USC, you know, where the kids go to study, you know, film production.
Mm-hmm.
How many musicians? 90% of them don't make it, or the Berklee School of Music here in Boston, which is very well known. I mean, it's a cutthroat business. You know, very few people will make it. You know, so what do you think it takes to survive in that kind of crazy business?
First of all, you have to believe in yourself so hard. You have to just know you can do it before you even do it, I think. And then that doesn't even count the craft part of finding a way to make music that maybe nobody's ever heard before. In a way, even if you're a pianist, it's all different because there's a lot of solo piano music out there. I don't know how people even go through it, but I think you have to be, you just have to believe in yourself, and you have to be super passionate about what, like you have to almost believe there's nothing else you can do. Like that, nothing else will satisfy you as a human on this planet. You have to do it. You don't have a choice. Not that you were chosen, but you're choosing it for yourself. And like all the musicians that I grew up with and was in bands with, I mean, all my friends, none of them play music for a living. So that says something to me. But it's just, you have to be overwhelmed, and then you have to come up with music that's good. But usually if you're passionate, you'll figure that out because you'll go to school or you learn from records. You'll end up making good music if you're passionate enough, I think. I think a lot of people give up and maybe that's good because they wouldn't have been happy. I think in film music, it's very hard because you have so many people that want to do the same thing. You also have to be a marketing force. You have to market yourself or sell yourself or do work for free or whatever. And I don't like that part. But that it happens. It happens on I think all kinds of creative businesses. You know, I think if you're a director, you want to be a director, no film company is going to give you $100,000 to make a movie or $1 million, whatever it would be, until they've seen something. So you got to go out, make your movie for your money, or find a friend that has a bunch of money or whatever. You use your savings account and make what you believe in so hard. And then I think that's similar to the music business because it's changed a lot. I wouldn't want to be starting out right now. I'm happy I'm not starting because with the way music sales is and stuff, it'd be very hard, to make a living. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The top
so,
10,
right,
top
like
10%.
40 years ago, right? You will create like a vinyl, and then you get paid $1 for each sale or a CD, whatever that is, and then you wouldn't have to tour that much. Now, musicians make money when they play live, and Spotify, in my example, will give you $200 on, bandcamp. They take 10%, so it's a little bit of money, not much. So you make money when you play live. So you're forced to go on the road and then do whatever for each the big names or 100, and but fewer and fewer people are buying vinyl and buying CD. The digital format, is still there. So what? So
it's funny at shows sometimes. I'll have a bunch of CDs out on the table. Excuse me, who's ever selling them, and I see people pick the CD up and they look at their husband or wife. They're like, "Do we have a CD player anymore?" Like they're not sure if it's in their car or if they even have one at home. I mean, if they have a DVD player, they can play a CD, of course, but a lot of people aren't even aware of that. So they may not want to buy a CD. So I always give them a download with a CD, something like that. So because people like to look at it. Yeah. But a lot of cars don't have CD players anymore. don't even have them. So it's a strange, you have to be able to roll with the punches, as they say. You know, it's like, okay, they don't have that, so now I sell USB sticks with 2 or 3 albums on them or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And then so you have to adapt.
That's right.
I think that's another important thing for survival.
Adapt to survive, you know.
Yes. Yes,
Adapt to
exactly.
survive. That's a good name for an album of yours. Write it down.
Yes. I'll remember that. I don't have to write it down.
Adaptosurvive.com. So the new album
I'll
from
say that's right. I'll say that's what Claudio told me.
Yeah. So can music change the world? I mean, we live in, I don't know, the situation in Ukraine, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think in the long run it can help change. You know, humans are humans, you know, and some are just evil, I think. And they're megalomaniacs, you know, that just want a bunch of power. I think over the years, I think, you know, I think a lot of, like, you think of music in the 60s and things like that, where there seemed to be more social commentary in music. I think that had an effect on people. I think that had an effect on a generation. And I think if more people just listened to music that was calming, maybe calming, or they could get outside themselves for a minute, I think that will change over time. So I think yes is the short answer.
we live in, you know, we live in a kind of crazy world where young kids,
Yes.
like my son, you know, they don't like to read that many books, but they're on the phone all day, and then the internet. People don't
How
know how
old
to
is
read
your
books.
son?
18.
Uh-huh.
No, of course I'm exaggerating a little bit. We put pressure on him to study, but you know how it is. People don't buy books anymore, or they don't go to the library.
No.
They're in social media all the time, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, which a bunch of very stupid stuff, you know, controlled by some people.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and they don't enjoy life, and they don't go out, and they are connected all the time, and social pressure because the peer, they are not right at the back, or a peer, you know, uploaded a picture, or whatever that is. You know, we live in kind of crazy time, and
Yes.
so
I know.
the world was
I
such.
worry about young people. You know,
Yeah.
I think I feel embarrassed that the world isn't in a better place.
Yeah.
You know, after all what the good people have tried to do over years. So I don't know. It's kind of scary.
Man, I hope we don't blow up this planet. We don't. I don't know. We are that close, man. We live in crazy times. So maybe music is the answer, man.
I think a lot of people use music to escape.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's why people like my music.
You know, what we need to do is send, you know, buy your music, send it to Putin to see if he will stop. And,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You gotta hold him down and make him listen to it.
Yeah, and then to see he change. We live in crazy town nowadays, man. And
yeah. Well, especially back, you put that together with the pandemic. It's like, wow, what is going on?
You know, think about it. You know, people couldn't, I don't know, I'm exaggerating, but they didn't leave the house for 6 months at a time, you know, where,
yes.
Remember, you know, you didn't go to the supermarket, you call the supermarket, you place an order online, and you or your wife, your kids will pick that up, you know, in a particular corner at 6:15 p.m. so nobody will be around, and
right.
And so we were stuck at home. So music was, for me, was beautiful because I was buying more music that I was able to listen to, you know. So
yeah, sure.
The stuff. I have only 2 more questions. Looking back at your music career, what moments are special to you? Any regrets or anything you would have done differently?
Boy, that's a long question. You know, I did a tour in 1998, and we were playing with Michael Crawford, who was the singer from Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
And we got to open for his show with my new music, The Celtic Book of Days, on that tour, and I got to play at the Hollywood Bowl. And I think that was a highlight for me because I love the Hollywood Bowl. I've gone there since I was a kid. And to be on that stage was really powerful. You know, I wouldn't say regret, but I would say the way things turned out, I wish I had started making my own music sooner. But you can't, you know, how do you second guess that? You know, you've got to go with what you're doing at the time. Like, I'm not sure I would have been in band so long, or I might have taken more classes about orchestration in college. So that maybe I would be able to do more films now or something. But I still feel very lucky. You know, a lot of people who wanted to be in music aren't, and they couldn't do it. You just have to be obsessed, kind of, and I was.
What do you do for fun? No music related.
I mean, besides coming to Hawaii?
Oh, that's beautiful, man. Good for you, man.
I like to play baseball with a bunch of old guys.
Yeah.
And then I'm always worried about falling down or getting hurt or something, but it's fun. I always thought that maybe I would be a baseball player when I was in high school.
Really? That would have been your plan B.
But then music took over.
Well,
yeah. But also, if I was a baseball player, my career would have been over a long time ago. So I'm happy I went with the music way.
Right. Good for you, man. Feel free to elaborate on your website where our listener can buy your music, and feel free to mention your site, your
yes, the best
bandcamp. Yep.
Best place to go is davidarkenstone.com and David Arkenstone at Bandcamp, because then you can find CDs or digital downloads.
Yeah.
And other stuff. And the new record is there also, and on Amazon too. And people were buying it or pre-ordering it. I've never seen this happen before. Pre-ordering it before it was released, and it was up on the chart, and I was just amazed by that, because you couldn't even hear it. There was nowhere to hear it. Pre-order wasn't connected to music, so I'm amazed by that. But I'm kind of everywhere, so it's easy to find. YouTube has lots of stuff, as you found out.
Yeah, and I will
Spotify.
Yeah, I will put, when I upload the link to the radio, I will put the name of the Bandcamp as well as your website, so people can go and buy your music. Hey, Dave, it was very nice talking to you, man. This more my they call it interview, but in reality for me are two people talking about, you know, life experience, talking about music, that, you know, and whatever, more than an interview. Because for me, it's I don't, you see, I don't, everybody knows about that hit, that album, that many records, that many sales. But for me, it's important to get to know the person behind the instrument, or the drummer, you know, behind the, you know, the drums, or the pianist. So I want to know the human being behind the instrument. So that's why my interviews are different.
I think your listeners appreciate too, because it's the same thing about playing live. When I go play a show, I meet people who have been 5-6 CDs in their hand for me to sign from years ago or whatever. You know, you're able to communicate with these people who have really been your fans, and now it's easier, you know, with Facebook, and we have a special Facebook group called the Arken Fans Community, and I interact with them a lot more than I ever have with fans. It's a great way to connect, and then they'll show up at the shows, and you get to know the people a little bit who have supported you for so many years. So I think your listeners appreciate your talking to musicians and finding out how that all happens.
Great. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah,
it's great. It's great.
It was very nice talking to you. Have a great time then in Hawaii, man, and hopefully I will see you in California very soon, man.
Great. Thanks, Claudio.
Hey, no problem. Have a great afternoon there.
Okay.